Life is full of surprises. I came here to work. Now, this place has become my home.
On my way to work, I cross the border between Sweden and Denmark. But it doesn't feel like two countries. I really like that.
To me, it is a mental space where big ideas can come to life. When I first moved here, I was amazed by how efficient and well-connected everything is. 1 minute, you are in the city. And the next, it feels like you're a million miles away. I was so inspired by this place and the opportunities, and the freedom to be who I want to be. So, I moved my company here.
As a child, I imagined my life to be full of adventure and that I would never stop playing. That feeling has come back to me. I love my work, but I also want to be there for my kids. To be a dad. I finally found a place where this is possible.
Back home, I was always in a rush. But here, I've learned to enjoy the view, to live in the moment. Connecting with nature every day gives me a fresh perspective. People here, they listen, they trust, they take care of each other. If you fall, there's someone to pick you up. I feel safe.
So many bright people are here that want to do things better together.
Now that I know, it's hard to see myself living anywhere else.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2024 OECD Local Development Forum. My name is Jan Juel Christensen. I'm the Managing Director of Greater Copenhagen. This year's conference is a collaborative effort between the OECD, Greater Copenhagen, and our valuable regional partners. Before we begin, just take a quick moment to look around and identify the nearest exits in case of an emergency. You can follow the green signs that will guide you to the exits. We, Greater Copenhagen, are honored to co-host this event as a political cooperation organization representing 85 municipalities and 4 regions across southern Sweden and eastern Denmark. Our main mission is to enhance cross-border collaboration and fully unlock the potential of our region. We are delighted to start the forum here in Malmö, where we will explore our theme, Building Bridges, Shaping Tomorrow. This theme reflects on the possibilities of cross-border regions and how to shape resilient and inclusive communities of the future. This forum brings together representatives from governments, trade organizations, social innovators, business, and many more. We are delighted to welcome participants from across the globe to Greater Copenhagen. Over the coming days, you will have the opportunity to engage in workshops, site visits, and plenary sessions, creating an exchange of ideas and experiences. The true impact of this forum will stem from what we achieve together. By forging new connections, engaging in meaningful discussions, and leveraging our collective expertise. Our Greater Copenhagen region has developed positively over the last decades and continues to evolve. To share more about our journey and ongoing developments, I'm very pleased to introduce the chairman of Greater Copenhagen, also chairman of the capital region of Denmark, Please join me in welcoming Mr. Lars Gårdhøj to the stage.
Thank you very much. Dear Mr. Takeuchi, dear Mr. Arnlit, esteemed panelists, distinguished guests, and delegates, welcome. It is a great pleasure that I stand here today and welcome you to this 2024 Greater Copenhagen OECD Local Development Forum. On behalf of Greater Copenhagen, I extend our heartfelt thanks to the OECD for co-hosting this significant event with us. We are very honored to collaborate with you and your organization on a forum of such importance. I would also like to express our gratitude to the Nordic Council, as well as our regional and local partners, whose support has been vital in bringing this forum to life. As the chairman of Greater Copenhagen and the capital region of Denmark, I'm very proud to welcome you to our Danish-Swedish border region. I want to give a special thanks to the cities of Malmö and also the city of Copenhagen for kindly hosting us today and tomorrow. This is the first time the Local Development Forum is hosted across 2 countries, and I see this as a testament to the strong collaboration between the regions and cities of southern Sweden and eastern Denmark. More than anything, it symbolizes Greater Copenhagen's ambition to develop our region across borders, across languages, cultures, and across the Øresund Bridge. In 2025, the Øresund Bridge will celebrate its 25th anniversary. The construction of the bridge marks an important milestone in our border region's history and the relationship of our 2 countries. Once a time, Øresund was a boundary of conflict. In 1659, the Swedes marched across the ice from Malmö to Copenhagen, and the Danish King Frederik III proclaimed, "I shall die in my nest." Today, or in the year 2000, our common Øresund Bridge opened as a bridge of opportunity, connecting our nations and the Greater Copenhagen region in a shared vision of green, innovative metropolitan region. Indeed, we have already come far. The bridge has revolutionized commuting between the 2 countries, reducing travel time to just 40 minutes by train from central Copenhagen to central Malmö or the other way. And this connectivity has fostered a shared labor market, allowing businesses to draw talent from both countries and give workers the possibility to seek employment across Øresund. Today, more than 19,000 commuters cross the bridge each day, embodying the essence of cross-border cooperation. And is there a better way to explore cross-border cooperation than by experiencing the daily journey of a cross-border commuter? Moving the conference from Malmö to Copenhagen tomorrow will offer a first-hand glimpse into this experience. I'm thrilled that we are almost 400 participants joining us from the globe in this year's forum, who are gathered to discuss cross-border issues. The theme, Building Bridges, Shaping Tomorrow, emphasizes our goal of learning from each other across nationalities and sectors. I'm eager to hear about green innovation from Melbourne, cross-border cooperation in Limburg, and local leadership in Monterey. We are here to build bridges within Greater Copenhagen and with you, our international speakers and guests, to shape a tomorrow where living and working in a cross-border region is seamless. We are here today and tomorrow to be inspired, to be ambitious for border regions across the world. I represent the 4.5 million people living in Greater Copenhagen, spanning from Kungsbacka in southern Sweden to Lolland in eastern Denmark. Greater Copenhagen is ambitious and forward-thinking. We want to set an example to show the world that it is possible to combine sustainable living and high quality of life. We are leaders in the green jobs and patents, and we boast the largest labor market in the Nordic countries. Yet, there are still barriers between eastern Denmark and southern Sweden that complicates life for cross-border citizens, employees and employers. When it comes to job and skill matching, coordination and digital services, and punctuality on public transportation, we have not reached the finish line yet. We must do better for ourselves and the future generations. This ambition is deeply rooted in Greater Copenhagen and the Greater Copenhagen Committee, our political cooperation, born from necessity and hope, bridges regional and local ambitions to achieve what we cannot do alone. We are committed to realizing the full potential of Greater Copenhagen, a region without cross-border barriers. And removing these barriers is crucial for labor market integration, innovation, efficient infrastructure, and a green transition. Our aim is to make Greater Copenhagen an attractive, connected, and green metropolitan region. Our latest achievement has been bringing the Danish and Swedish governments together to revise the special tax agreement for Øresund commuters to make life as a cross-border commuter and taxpayer easier. And if you had asked me 25 years ago about my vision for our region, I might have predicted that the bridge would foster greater cooperation and understanding between our countries. And one could ask, have we achieved this vision? In many ways, yes, but there's still work to be done. Cooperation between the Nordic countries and Danish-Swedish cooperation has indeed strengthened, with Nordic governments aiming to make the Nordic region the most integrated and sustainable region in the world by 2030. Greater Copenhagen plays an important role in achieving this goal and in pushing the green agenda forward. However, as I've said a couple of times, there are still challenges and cross-border barriers that need our attention. Integration of regions, realization of potential across borders requires ongoing commitment and effort. I remain hopeful for border regions and our collective goal of removing barriers for those living and working in them. And we owe it to ourselves and each other to utilize the full potential of our border regions. I look forward in engaging in insightful conversations on how we can shape the future together. Welcome to Malmö, welcome to Greater Copenhagen, welcome to the OECD Local Development Forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lars Gårdhøj, for highlighting the rich history of Greater Copenhagen. Your insights remind us how far we've come in integrating our Danish and Swedish communities, proving that building bridges between our nations shapes a brighter future. We are both delighted and honored that the OECD recognizes Greater Copenhagen as a leader in regional development with immense potential and has chosen to host its annual local development forum here. Now I have the pleasure of introducing our next speaker, as well as welcoming OECD to the region. Mr. Yoshiki Takeuchi is the OECD Deputy Secretary General. Mr. Takeuchi leads strategic initiatives across several areas, including employment, education, skills and financial affairs, while also advocating sustainability and equal opportunities. Previously, Mr. Takeuchi held leading positions at Japanese Ministry of Finance. Welcome to the stage, Mr. Takeuchi. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman of the Greater Copenhagen, for the kind words. Dear colleagues, delegates, distinguished guests, I'm delighted to join here in Malmö today to open the 2024 OECD Local Development Forum. On behalf of the OECD, I want to warmly thank our host, Greater Copenhagen, the Nordic Council of Ministers, and the other regional partners who have made this event possible. The global economy and labor markets have weathered the storm of recent crises surprisingly well. Labor demands remain strong. In May this year, there were 662 million people in employment across the OECD. This is 3.8% more than in December 2019, just before the COVID-19 pandemic. But beneath the surface, our economies are changing rapidly. Many local economies are struggling with skill shortages as they seek to respond to new demand and population aging. New findings from the OECD publication, Job Creation and Local Economic Development 2025, which will be released later this year, shows that shortages are especially prominent in ICT and green sectors. For example, labor shortages in ICT are on average twice as high as for other jobs. The impacts of these transitions are uneven across regions. Our work shows that within countries, some regional labor markets are 3 or 4 times tighter than the national average. And this report also shows that in 2021, just 20% of OECD regions produced 80% of green patents. And the good news for this room is that the Greater Copenhagen is one of the leaders in navigating these transactions, especially the green transition. Compared to the regions across the OECD, Greater Copenhagen is amongst the best performers in terms of green patents per capita. It is also a leader in green jobs. Green tax jobs account for around 25% of employment in the region, which is 7 percentage points higher than the OECD average. Part of the secret to this region's success has been a strong and shared commitments to working across borders, supporting residents to access new opportunities. 70 years ago, the creation of new Nordic open labor market provided a solid foundation of labor market integration. And of course, we can't talk about the experience of Greater Copenhagen without acknowledging the role of game-changing infrastructure, such as the Ocean Bridge, which enables nearly 20,000 people to commute daily between 2 countries. So Greater Copenhagen has many lessons to share from these experiences, making it the perfect host for this year's Local Development Forum. But as the chairman has said, more can also be done to go from good to great. For example, national, regional, and local administrations in Denmark and Sweden can work together towards a stronger integration of Greater Copenhagen's labor market. Some examples: simplifying registrations around cross-border commuting, lowering administrative barriers, and improving the coordination of employment and skills policies across the region. We hope the exchanges with other cross-border regions joining us today, from Pacific Northwest Economic Region, spanning United States and Canada, to Europe's other cross-border regions, which are home to 150 million people, will provide new ideas and insights for both our hosts and international guests. The Local Development Forum is a unique international platform to share these lessons and to spark conversations between different types of stakeholders working on local development. When you say stakeholders, it's of course not only about local policymakers, but it also includes Chamber of Commerce, public employment services, social economic organizations, training providers, trade unions, and beyond. And this year's forum is particularly special for 2 reasons. First, as the chairperson said, because it is the first time the forum is being held in 2 countries. All of you will get a true cross-border experiences as we move from today's events in Malmö to tomorrow in Copenhagen. And the second special thing about this fora is because we are holding the fora back-to-back with an official meeting of the OECD's Local Employment and Economic Development Committee, LEAD. The LEAD committee brings together senior government representatives from around the world to discuss how national policies can better support quality job creation in different types of local communities. So we are urging national policymakers to focus more on regional, different type local communities. Holding these events back-to-back helps deepen the type of national-local exchange that is essential to turn these ambitions into realities. 15 years ago, the OECD, its territorial review of Copenhagen, called for more could be done to develop an integrated and functional labor market in the region. A recommendation that had helped to catalyze the stronger cross-border collaboration we see today. It was 15 years ago. Only 15 years ago, you might say, but it was really a long time that we had seen such a big progress. And the title of this year's fora is Building Bridges, Shaping the Future. I encourage you to take this as an inspiration over the next 2 days, making connections with your peers across the OECD. Because, yes, we need to start by building bridges, but we have to cross the bridge in the end. And for that purpose, I hope the discussion we will be having this in the coming 2 days would be fruitful for all of the people around here. And I can promise you that OECD is always here to support and work together with you for this purpose. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Takeuchi, for setting the stage with your speech. Your focus on Greater Copenhagen's achievements and possibilities, along with the potential for further strengthening cross-border collaboration, will steer our discussion over the next 2 days, I'm pretty sure. These challenges and opportunities are not unique to our cross-border region. Many of them are shared with regions across the world. As we look to the future, it's clear that achieving changes requires strong allies and committed partners. It's a great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Anders Arnlind, Director General of the Swedish National Board of Trade since 2020 and Chairman of the Freedom of Movement Council. Mr. Arnlind has had a long diplomatic career serving as Sweden's ambassador to Finland, permanent representative to the EU, and ambassador to the OECD and UNESCO. His experience in international trade and economic affairs includes key roles in Washington, D.C. and at Sweden's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He will share his vision of making the Nordic region the most sustainable and integrated region in the world by 2030. Let's welcome Mr. Arnlind to the stage. Welcome.
Deputy Secretary General, Chairman, OECD delegates, dear friends, it's a great privilege and honor for me to address you all here in Malmö today for several reasons. One reason, as mentioned, is that I have very fond memories of the publication in the year 2012 of the then OECD territorial review of Skåne, the Swedish region that hosts us today. At that time, as mentioned, I had the privilege of being Sweden's OECD ambassador, and it's very good, it feels very good to again be back in an important OECD meeting. Since 2012, there has literally been much water under the Öresund Bridge. Greater Copenhagen has both survived a pandemic and developed tremendously. Today, I have the privilege of following this region's impressive development as Director General of the National Board of Trade, which is the government of Sweden's agency for international trade, the EU internal market and trade policy. My agency is mandated to promote free trade and free movement. I'm also Sweden's member of and presently chairman of the Nordic Council of Ministers' Council for Freedom of Movement. And therefore, as you understand, the theme of this conference is very close to my heart. Building bridges, shaping futures is not only relevant for a successful region like Greater Copenhagen, but it is, of course, also important for the entire Nordic region and the rest of the world. Now, due to the sad state of geopolitical affairs, with a horrible war in Europe and with conflicts and strife around the globe, we as OECD members and partners, no doubt, have to cooperate more and better and build more and better bridges between us today as never before. In this perspective, the Nordic countries served as a role model already 70 years ago. The common Nordic labour market was established in 1954. In combination with the then already existing passport union, this meant free Nordic movement for persons well before the European Union followed suit. The common Nordic labour market was and still is a cornerstone for integration between our countries. It plays a key role for achieving a green, competitive and socially sustainable region. It is also a solid foundation when the Nordic region today wants to continue to serve as a role model for others to follow. But as the world is changing rapidly and as technology is swiftly evolving, our goals and visions must evolve as well. And therefore, as we also heard a few years ago, our 8 Nordic prime ministers and heads of government agreed on the vision that the Nordic region should become the world's most sustainable and best integrated region by the year 2030. No doubt a very ambitious vision, and obviously we are not there yet. Much work remains to be done, but one thing is clear and certain. Today's challenges, such as aging populations, the skills gap that we face, and the need for a green digital transition require continued strong cooperation. So how is this cooperation organized on the Nordic level, and how does the work proceed in practice? Let me try to explain a few central components of our Nordic cooperation. The Nordic Council of Ministers is the official body for intergovernmental cooperation in the Nordic region. It seeks common solutions wherever and whenever the Nordic countries can achieve more together than by themselves. There are 12 different councils of ministers within the Nordic cooperation, 12 forums where Nordic ministers in areas such as digitalization, finance, health and social policy, education, labor markets and growth have a joint dialogue and make decisions with the Vision 2030 as the guiding star. Given that 3 Nordic countries are EU members, and that Norway and Iceland belong to the European Economic Area, EU rules and regulations underpin much of this cooperation. And in addition to a great secretariat in Copenhagen, there are also a number of other institutions throughout the Nordic region that form part of this cooperation. One example is Nordregio in Stockholm, a leading Nordic and European research center for regional development and planning. Another is Nordic Innovation in Oslo, that initiates and funds activities that enhance innovation, to mention 2 of them. Furthermore, Nordic cooperation is also characterized by sharing and obtaining inspiring experiences in dialogue with public and private stakeholders, with organizations, with civil society and international partners, as today's forum illustrates. After this rapid crash course in Nordic cooperation, let me now deep dive briefly into what I have been involved in during this year in my role as Sweden's member and chairman of the Freedom of Movement Council. Here, evidently, mobility is the cornerstone of our common labor market model in the Nordic region, and mobility is identified as central to Vision 2030. So, in addition, removal of cross-border obstacles is also the priority for the ongoing Swedish presidency in the Nordic Council of Ministers. We give and take, we benefit from each other's needs and skills, and thus we contribute to growth not only in our border regions, but throughout the Nordic region. But are we really exploiting the full potential of our border regions? Well, good question. We have, as you know, several common labour market regions in the Nordic countries. Today we are in Greater Copenhagen, which is the largest border region and also the most dynamic one. This is a region with great capacity for innovation, and the need to have a well-functioning regional labour market is key to its growth. Fortunately, cross-border commuting is increasing in Greater Copenhagen, and the region has recovered well after several crises in recent years, not least the pandemic. But in a wider European context, we realize that we have not yet reached our full potential, neither here nor in other Nordic border regions. Compared to the EU average, only half as many Nordic residents commute between the Nordic countries, despite 70 years of a common Nordic labour market. So, the task for the Freedom of Movement Council is clear. We must ensure that cross-border obstacles are resolved by our national governments, and we must elevate the mobility perspective to the political level. The Council is an independent body that has the mandate to push our governments towards deeper integration. We are a blowtorch for change, if you so wish, and a watchdog against border barriers at the same time. Our role is to remind our political decision makers of the Nordic as well as the cross-border perspective. The major challenges for us have already been alluded to, but they are quite clear to both businesses and commuters. They include digitalization challenges, tax issues, social security problems, and various other administrative hurdles. This year, the Freedom of Movement Council has concentrated on taxation barriers to mobility. We have heard about the successful conclusion of a new Öresund agreement, very well, but that does not help commuters along the Swedish-Norwegian, Swedish-Finnish borders, for instance. We are also working to promote Nordic digital and electronic identification solutions, and recognition of professional qualifications has also been on our agenda. Safe is to say that we are not alone in this work. We are many team players who share the same goal. Cross-border committees such as Greater Copenhagen, cross-border information services such as Öresund Direct, cross-border networks and cross-border Interreg projects, local, regional and national politicians, including in the parliamentary Nordic councils, and EU Solvit centers are some examples of partners that we team up with in this endeavor. Together, we put cross-border issues on the agenda, and due to the commitment and energy of this network, I am confident that we slowly but surely will find solutions towards the fulfillment of our 2030 vision, even if there are still bumps in the road ahead. On that note, with a strong confidence in a better future and with great expectations at the upcoming panel discussions and workshops, I give the floor back to Jan Joel Christensen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Mr. Arlit, for your remarks, your perspectives, especially on mobility, along with those of our previous speakers, sets very good the tone for the exciting days we have ahead. We have an extensive program today, so let me briefly guide you through it. Up next, in a short while, we will dive into our first panel discussion on working across borders, where experts from diverse sectors will share strategies for enhancing cooperations for greater economic and social outcomes. After the session, lunch will be served outside this room, where you will also find a marketplace showcasing regional and international initiatives driving local development across OECD countries. Following the lunch, we will move into breakout panel discussions on various dynamic topics. These sessions will be on the ground floor, so simply follow the signs downstairs to find your chosen discussion. And later in the day, we have 3 parallel study tours lined up with buses waiting to take you to explore key sites. And before entering the buses, don't forget to grab a coffee and a Swedish fika before boarding. And then we will return to the City Hall of Malmö to have our dinner this evening, and we are very grateful that we can be at the City Hall here in Malmö. Now there will be a short technical interruption, and we will move directly to the next session, which will be moderated by Karen Maguire. So to start the discussion, and while the technicians are moving around here on the stage, I would like you to introduce yourself to the person sitting next to you, answering the questions, what brings you to the OECD Local Development Forum, and what are you looking forward to being a part of and taking back home with you? So thank you for this first session, and welcome here.